My heart goes out to the families and the friends of those who lost their lives in such an appalling act of terror, to the injured and to all those in shock at what they witnessed on London Bridge on Friday. We all owe a debt of gratitude to our emergency services, to the incredibly brave police officers who put their own lives on the line to save others, and to all of our emergency service workers, ambulance, fire crews, and so many others who were involved in responding to this incident with such speed and such incredibly professional approach to their jobs. I will always do whatever is necessary and effective to keep our people safe. First of all, the police who put themselves on the line to protect us will have the authority to use whatever force is necessary to protect and save life. If police believe an attacker is wearing a suicide vest, then they're right to take the action that they do and did. We have to understand that no government can prevent every attack. No one would believe any political leader who said they could. But the government can act to make such acts of terror less rather than more likely. Community policing, the probation service, the mental health service, youth services and social services all have a vital part to play in this, as does our education service. When those public services are cut back, as they have been during the past decade of austerity, they leave behind huge gaps. And that can lead to missed chances to intervene in the lives of people who go on to commit absolutely inexcusable acts. You can't keep people safe on the cheap. For far too long, our country's leaders have made the wrong calls on our security. Their mistakes in no way absolve terrorists of blame for their murderous actions. The blame for those lies with the terrorists, their funders, and their recruiters. But if we are to protect people, we must be honest about what threatens our security. The threat of terrorism cannot and should not be reduced to questions of foreign policy alone. But too often, the actions of successive governments have fueled, not reduced, that threat. 16 years ago, I warned against the invasion and occupation of Iraq. I said it would set off a spiral of conflict, of hate, of misery, and desperation that would fuel the wars and the conflict and the terrorism and the misery of future generations. It did, and we are still living with the consequences today of that decision in 2003. The war on terror has manifestly failed. Britain's repeated military interventions in North Africa and the wider Middle East, including Afghanistan, have exacerbated rather than resolved the problems. Real security requires calmly making the right calls at moments of high pressure, often against the grain of conventional wisdom. That requires the courage and strength to chart an independent course when we think our friends and allies are doing the wrong thing. So it is time for Britain to stop clinging to Donald Trump's coattails. Boris Johnson has been the world's leading sycophant towards the president, from climate change denial to unconditional support for Israel's far right, from racism to confrontation with China. Too many times we've been taken on a dangerous path by this process. Britain must make its own foreign policy, not from knee-jerk subservience to another administration which doesn't accept our values. And
thank you, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you.